morning. My name is Colleen Foster. I'm the CRRA president, and welcome to our first virtual conference. This is CRRA, our 44th annual conference, and after 44 years, we're doing it virtually and from our home to your home. So thank you everyone for being here. It's a pretty exciting opportunity to welcome everyone to this conference. I remember when we decided to go virtual, we had a lot of nerves in place, but it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm really excited to start that journey with you. We've got 4 days of amazing content. We started yesterday with an amazing policy roundtable, as well as a networking event last night. So that was pretty fun and exciting. We've got a lot of people attending. We have almost 600 people registered. And that's phenomenal numbers. And so it's really exciting to see how the community has come together to support CRRA and be a part of the CRRA conversation. We've got a lot of great sessions going on over the next few days, so I welcome you to take advantage of those sessions and enjoy those sessions. And we've just had a lot of things happening this year. Obviously, well, you know, a pandemic, you know, killer bees, fires, not a tsunami yet, so hopefully no tsunamis this week. But in light of all that, I think CRRA has been a phenomenal organization to move all of us through. I know for myself personally, the CRRA organization and all of our content and webinars and all of my colleagues, peers and friends, you guys have been a light force for myself, moving our organization forward and through some of the toughest times we've ever seen. So in light of this year, out of all the accomplishments, in particular, our zero waste certification program, we had over 60 attendees in the last several months. We took that certification program and made it a virtual program, and we saw a lot of great support. We had 6 webinars, CRRA webinars, as soon as COVID hit, with over 1,200 attendees in total. So it's been a really phenomenal journey to see how CRRA has been able to pivot in this environment and be responsive to our membership's needs for content, for information sharing. I've been with the organization for over a decade now. I am entering into my ninth year of serving the CRRA board. And as president, I really enjoyed the opportunity to you know, really learn from all of my colleagues, from the newest members to our most seasoned members. We all can learn from one another. So I appreciate everyone's support and patience. I appreciate our strategic partnerships that we have with CRRA. CRRA strategic partnerships includes partnerships with CPSC, Californians Against Waste, KCB, National Stewardship Action Council, Container Recycling Institute, SWANA's Gold Rush chapter, and Waste 360. We really have diversity within our organizational partnerships. We've got a lot of great support. In regards to this year was the launch of the California Statewide Commission. Out of 17 commissioners, 13 of those commissioners are CRRA members or partners. So that really shows you that our organization you know, is the voice of zero waste in California. And when we're the voice of zero waste in California, we're the voice of zero waste nationally and at an international scale. So with that, I thank all of you for all of your participation and help making that voice more powerful and strong. I look forward to the next year as we tackle and overcome the challenges presented by this pandemic. I look forward to tackling our goals for organics diversion and SB 1383 and being successful with our statewide diversion goals as a collective group. I look forward to working together to find ways to support our agencies and our members and our jurisdictions, you know, to find ways to provide them the relief and support they need to help them be successful. And as an organization, I look forward to working to develop diversity within the environmental industry, to end systematic racism, and to really nurture and foster an inclusive environment through CRRA and through zero waste and through environmental stewardship. So with that, I want to get us started. We've got a big few days ahead. I encourage all of you to take advantage of all the various resources. Come to the events. I know it's a little weird to come to evening networking events from your home, but go ahead and mix up your cocktail, grab your kids, your dogs, your husband, wives, whoever, and enjoy and share with each and every one of us, because each of you is what makes CRA a better organization.
Hi, I'm Assembly Speaker Pro Tem Kevin Mullin, and I'm happy to join the CRRA for its 44th annual and first virtual conference, and look forward to seeing all of you in Burlingame and the 22nd Assembly District in 2021. We indeed live in very challenging times. COVID-19 has affected our work at the Capitol. Normally at this time of the year, the halls of the Capitol would be packed with folks opposing or supporting legislation. COVID-19 has changed this scenario dramatically, and while the legislature has adapted by holding hearings via phone in terms of testimony and floor sessions that are socially distanced, the virus has indeed shifted our priorities. Despite all these challenges, I continue to prioritize protecting our existing infrastructure, investing in economic recovery and new green infrastructure while aiming to achieve our climate goals here in the state. I'm also acutely aware of the unique risks that the waste industry is facing, and we'll keep that in mind as we move forward through the legislative calendar. As some of you know, last year, my colleagues, Assemblymember Berman, Senator Hill, and I introduced AB 1509 in response to a very serious fire caused by a lithium-ion battery at Rethink Waste's Shoreway facility here in San Mateo County. With over 500,000 lithium-ion batteries sold last year, and the number of batteries on the market expected to double over the next 7 years, I'm well aware that just the quantity of these lithium-ion batteries entering the waste stream will only increase, and the risk of future fires along with it. AB 1509 was aimed at creating a collection and recycling program for both loose and embedded lithium-ion batteries to prevent them from being improperly. So many consumer products now that it would pretty much be impossible to ban or limit their use. So the bill asks battery and product makers to participate in the end-of-life management of lithium-ion batteries as fires that impact our solid waste and recycling infrastructure, one that was publicly funded. As we learned from that fire in San Mateo County, the status quo continues to put our waste handling facilities and the workers who staff those facilities at real risk. So I look forward to continuing our work with Rethink Waste, and Joe LaMariana in particular. Thank you for your leadership, Joe, so we may continue to tackle this problem in a future legislative session. We also face another threat to our infrastructure via climate change. The impacts of climate change range from extreme weather events like droughts or floods to wildfires and sea level rise. This issue is personal to me because San Mateo County, from a people perspective and a property value perspective, is the most impacted county in the state of California. And I know that this is personal for the waste industry as well. Sea level rise and flooding can block collection routes, while excessive heat can overheat collection vehicles and sorting equipment. To address sea level rise, I introduced, and fortunately Governor Newsom signed, AB 825. It modifies the existing San Mateo County Flood Control District and renames it the Flood and Sea Level Rise Resiliency District. It's the first county-level agency of its kind in the state to directly tackle sea level rise, and I'm proud of our local partners on that effort. The expansion of the existing district's responsibilities will allow our local representatives to focus on the serious and unique challenges presented by sea level rise, including necessary flood prevention infrastructure here in the county and around the region. And finally, I just wanted to touch on economic recovery, which is crucial for everyone right now as we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic and the fallout from the pandemic. The governor and the legislature are working on numerous ways to jumpstart the economy, including sustainability and green infrastructure improvements that will both reinvigorate the economy while simultaneously helping us reach our ambitious climate targets. And in closing, let me just say I recognize that on top of all of the new hurdles presented by COVID-19, the waste industry still faces existing commodity and organic recycling mandates that require targeted investments. And I look forward to working with my colleagues in the legislature as well as allies in your industry to develop solutions. So, for the opportunity to share that brief report with you, and I wish you all the best for a very productive conference. Thank you very much.
I am Jay Benton. I am a council member with the town of Hillsborough, and I am currently serving as chair of the South Bayside Waste Management Authority, which we call Rethink Waste. So on behalf of my colleagues on the board and our staff, we welcome you to the 44th Annual CRRA Conference. As Colleen pointed out, our first Zoom conference, but we've all been Zooming a long time, virtual conferences for the last 6 months, so we're all becoming old hands, aren't we? A word about Rethink Waste. We are composed of 12 local government jurisdictions, which form our JPA, and in total we are over a $100 million operation. Kevin Mullin mentioned lithium batteries, and we want to thank Speaker Mullin for his support in AB 1509. That bill originated with Rethink Waste because we were the folks that had the very serious fire. Since then, we have hardened our facility. We've taken a lot of effort to strengthen and protect our employees and our facility. We've also introduced a new battery handling program, which we introduced about a year ago, which changes the way we collect batteries, changes the way we manage it at the transfer facility, and most importantly, trying to educate our ratepayers as to how important it is that they treat these batteries separately and differently. And we've enjoyed some level of success with that. But the lithium battery, as Speaker Mullin mentioned, is going to be with us for a long time. We appreciate his efforts in the Assembly, Senator Hill for his efforts in the state Senate, and we look forward to having the Senate pass a similar bill to 1509. It really is important to bring the manufacturers into the end-of-life use of these batteries to provide safe environment for our employees as well as our facilities. But times move on. Now we are into the serious planning for SB 1383, which is the sweeping new California state law to reduce organic waste in the landfills, which has major long-term implications for our ratepayers and our customers. As we prepare for that, we were fortunate in 2019 to take advantage of the low interest rate environment we're in, and we were able to refinance our bonded indebtedness. We not only were able to reduce our interest costs, but we were able to generate additional funds, which we're going to need for capital expenditures to meet the requirements of 1383. One of the first of those projects that we're proud to begin at Rethink is an organic to energy pilot program, which should be online now were it not for the source material shortage caused by the restaurant industry's problems. But our organic to energy program, when completed and online, will turn source separated organic material and targeted black cart organic waste into slurry for biodigestion. We're ready to go. We just need COVID to back off and let our restaurant customers return to full business. We have two major upgrades to our material recovery facility underway, one of which is about finished, the other will open up in 2021. This is all in response to China's national sword requirements. These substantial capital upgrades will generate a cleaner, we believe more saleable recycled material in response to China national sword. So we're anxious to get that on board quickly. COVID, of course, has affected all of us. And I want to give a shout out to our two principal partners. Recology San Mateo County provides recycle, compost, garbage collection services for our 435,000 customers and our 11,000 businesses. And South Bay Recycle operates our 16-acre transfer and MRF facility in San Carlos. Both of these companies have done a marvelous job of having good procedures and policies to protect the safety of their employees, and thereby able to maintain a level of service so that COVID has been virtually, our resident and ratepayers have been virtually unaffected by COVID. This did not come without a lot of effort and planning on their part, and we want to thank them on behalf of our ratepayers, because to our ratepayers, COVID has really been a non-event, but not without a lot of effort. So Colleen, to Joe, I thank you all very much. We're delighted to be hosting this year's conference, and I think we're going to get a chance to do it again next year, assuming that we're back live and in person, and we all hope that that be the case. So stay healthy. I congratulate you, and I wish you a very successful conference.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Benton. We really appreciate your words and your time kicking off the CRRA conference, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully next year when we're in person in Burlingame. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Tracy Bills. I'm Executive Director of CRRA, and one thing we knew for sure was that virtual conference was going to be a whole different ballgame, and I got to tell you, we're kind of trying not to panic here. You know, between the thunderstorms and rolling electrical outages and everything else going on, is kind of like seriously the perfect storm. So thanks for hanging in there with us while we get through this first keynote. It is my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Ken DeRosa, who serves as Acting Director of CalRecycle. Before being designated as Acting Director in January 2020, Mr. DeRosa served as the department's Chief Deputy Director since 2012. Mr. DeRosa's state service began in 1993 when he worked as a student assistant with the Department of Toxic Substance Control. In 1995, Mr. DeRosa began an 8-year career with the Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs, serving as support staff in the department's Medi-Cal program, an analyst in the licensing and budget branches, and a supervisor for program and fiscal policy. In 2004, Mr. DeRosa began working at the Department of Finance, where he held a variety of roles, beginning as a staff finance analyst and concluding as program budget manager. During his 8-year tenure with the Department of Finance, Mr. DeRosa's budget responsibilities included health and human services, energy, natural resources, and environmental protection. So please help me welcome Mr. DeRosa.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Good morning, everyone. Really nice to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. It's an excellent conference this week, and you're going to hear from some of my CalRecycle colleagues who are among the brightest and most dedicated professionals working in this space. And I'm going to rely on them for sort of the policy substance that you're going to hear about this week with their conferences and with their presentations. But I am extraordinarily grateful for their commitment. Colleen touched on a couple of the points that I'm going to make, and if you've heard me speak at conferences before, you're guaranteed two things: one, a bow tie; two, I can occasionally get a little heavy. And so today is not different in either regard. So at the risk of stating the obvious, we find ourselves in the most unusual of times. And it's more than just the pandemic. It's beyond the pandemic. We face an uncertain economic future right now. We witness public demonstrations and voices coming together to remind us of decades of racial inequity, and to demand justice. We see our institutions, democratic processes, currently being challenged and compromised and under threat. From a climate perspective, high temperatures in California and elsewhere amplify the presence of global warming. They put our landscape, our communities, our homes, our lives at risk. And turning back to the pandemic for a moment, it's reminded us of long-standing problems, limitations and inequities, access to healthcare, inconsistent safety nets protecting the most vulnerable, protecting workers. It's exposed the sheer number of people who have been, despite a strong economy, living on the margins. People whose economic status and stability was fragile, and for whom the loss of a couple of paychecks meant homelessness. So it's okay to feel overwhelmed, because all of this is overwhelming. This is all a little heavy for a Monday morning, I realize, but trust me, there's an arc here. So how do we begin to think about all of this? Well, I noticed this morning as I was on the conference website, there's a quote from John Muir that I think is very, very telling and very relevant. And it's this: when one tugs at a single thing in nature, one finds it attached to the rest of the world. And this is fitting. The very nature of the environmental policy work that we do, regardless of one's perspective and role, it compels us to look externally. We understand that, like a thread, when we tug at something in our natural world, in our environment, it's attached to everything else. We, as professionals in this space, always look beyond our own perspective and try to understand the frames within which others think and live. We do this for a variety of reasons. We do this to effectively articulate our message. We do this to effectively bring awareness of the need and how best to manage materials, best minimize waste, to best meet important environmental protection goals and objectives. So we think about part of our collection, processing, and market structure. We do this to effectively bring people, businesses, local governments, and communities together to understand the meaningful why of what we do. And we need all of them to do. Why their commitment and support in managing and reducing waste protects the environment. As we think about that thread, protecting the environment protects us. But these goals, our goals, are a lot to think about under normal circumstances. We now have added elements, ongoing stay-at-home restrictions, the uncertain economy I mentioned earlier, for example, to contend with. And this makes it difficult to be able to or even want to think about what we need to do. But this is very much the time to think about our critical environmental work and to think about and continue with this work, not despite the times we're living in, but rather because of the times we're living in. We may differ on how we get to our goals, but we all know, we must achieve, we have to make things better. As we reflect on the inequities that we've seen during this time, we need to remember that those inequities hit disadvantaged communities harder than any other. These communities are beset by environmental harm and decades of environmental inequality. They lack access to clean and affordable drinking water. A lack of affordable housing means they live close to longstanding sites with a history of environmental harm. It's merely a short list. And some would say, we have other issues to contend with. This is not the time, given the pandemic, given economic uncertainty, to think about the environmental goals that we have. But the point is that these concerns of ongoing inequity, the impact of disadvantaged communities, the potential for market growth and market development, the need for infrastructure and the economic benefits tethered to that these concerns, our concerns, the issues of disadvantaged communities, our issues, are amplified during this time. Our awareness, their voices, their circumstances, and our collective need to identify these issues, our responsibility to speak to these issues, and our passion to work collaboratively to solve the environmental influences on environmental issues and problems. That time is now. Not when things get back to normal, but now. Several months ago, when the first stay-at-home directives were on their way, I was talking with a neighbor across the street, and we were reflecting on what might be coming up next, not knowing just how long this would be happening and just how long we'd be living our lives this way. But we both acknowledged that this was going to be a significant period, that there was going to be a lot happening. And she said to me, I don't think we're going to be the same after this. And I've reflected a lot on that conversation. And I realized that I sincerely hope that she's right. I hope we won't be the same after this. I hope that we take this experience, we embrace the awareness we have, what we've been reminded of, and have gained that knowledge, that perspective of inequities faced by people in this nation, faced by the members of our own community, and let that be a call to action. and recognize the value of what we do environmentally. We need to use that as a motivation to focus, commit, and respond to our work, its importance, its value, and its transformative power to make our environment a better and equitable place. So enjoy your week, and please keep doing your part to get us to our goals. And please keep doing your part to get us through this public health crisis. Wear your masks, practice physical distancing, practice effective hand washing. In short, please stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you very much for listening. Tracy, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Ken. We really appreciate you being here, and also the representation from CRRA Recycle at our annual conference. Our members, they look up to you guys for leadership and guidance, so it's really important, and so thank you for taking the time. All right, before we move on to our keynote, I want to thank all of our sponsors. In the past years, I've asked sponsors to come onto stage to be acknowledged, and for one reason or another, I always seem to mess that up. I don't know why. And so this year, I actually get a reprieve. I won't be calling anyone on the stage, and I have no doubt you are all probably pretty relieved as well. I joke, but in all seriousness, this year has been particularly difficult due to COVID and budget constraints for everyone. However, our sponsors have always supported CRRA, and this year is no different. We are so grateful for all of our sponsors, especially knowing the unique circumstances we find ourselves in. I want to acknowledge our host sponsors, Rethink Waste, County of San Mateo, and Recology. They will be our host and major sponsors this year, and they've also agreed to be our host and major sponsors next year for 2021. So thank you so much. We also have our other level sponsors, which we so much appreciate. Because of this support, all of these sponsors have made this conference possible. So thank you from the CRRA Board of Directors, CRRA staff, and myself. And throughout the conference, you'll be seeing all of these sponsors on the different, during the presentations, as well as at our exhibit hall reception and whatnot. So thank you all for being a part of CRRA and continually supporting and being able to help out, as well as in attendance. We have over 560 attendees this year, and a majority of that is because of our sponsors. So thank you. So now it is the time you've all been waiting for, our keynote speaker. I don't know how many of you read Junkyard Planet, but I found it fascinating and learned so much about globalized recycling and reclamation and its impact on the environment and global economy. So when I found out that Adam Mintner wrote another book, we knew we had to get him to speak at CRRA. And the best part about our request was that Mr. Mintner loves participating in statewide recycling association conferences. It's pretty lucky for us, I would say. Adam Mintner is a columnist with Bloomberg Opinion based in Malaysia. From 2002 to 2014, Adam lived in Shanghai, where he reported on the global scrap recycling trade for trade and general interest publications, from Vice to the Wall Street Journal. In 2013, Adam added author to his resume with the publication of his first book, Junkyard Planet, Travels in the Billion-Dollar Trash Trade. His most recent book, Secondhand, Travels in the New Global Garage Sale, is a deep dive into the world of used stuff and what it tells us about consumerism and the environment. So with that, I'd love to welcome Mr. Adam Mintner to the stage and have him present on his new book.
Hello. I hope I'm coming through okay. Okay, thanks, Tracy. I really appreciate the introduction. I really appreciate being here. You know, I'm supposed to be in California today, a little bit jet lagged, having flown in from Malaysia, but thanks to COVID, I'm actually in Minnesota and talking to you from here, which is sort of tantalizingly close, you know, and yet so very far away. As Tracy said, I love the statewide recycling organizations, and I've always wanted to do this conference because what you've done in California and what you continue to do in California as a recycling community, as a waste and recovery community, as an industry, continues to inspire me, continues to inspire recyclers around the world. As Tracy said, I've lived in Asia almost 2 decades now, and there's close monitoring from Asia what California does. So hopefully at some point in the future, we'll all be able to get together in person, and I won't be doing this virtually. I'll be doing it in person, and we can go off to the side of the stage and have some conversations. I'd really love to do that. But this is where we are today, and so I've put together a little bit of a journey through my journey as somebody who thinks about not just recycling, but about repair and secondhand and where it fits into the overall picture that we are starting to assemble, post-COVID, into this new semi-globalized economy. And so I'm really grateful for the chance to share it with you. I'm going to put up some slides, and there's going to be a video a little ways into this as well. Hopefully these slides come through okay. Here we go. Oops, those are not mine. Okay. Okay, I am going to give this a go here, and if I actually have a chat window, so if there's any technical problems, I hope the folks helping us manage this will let me know, and I can pause. So I'd like to start this out in a way where I started out my journalism career, and this is a photo that was taken in South China, not far from Guangzhou, a place called Shanshui, in the mid-2000s when the U.S. China trans-Pacific recycling trade was going really well, and at this point I was doing a lot of writing for Scrap Magazine and Recycling International Magazine, and I was down in Shanshui on an assignment, and a friend of mine who is based in California who owns the scrapyard, it was a new scrapyard at the time, said, "Come on down and look at our scrapyard. It's a new one." I love scrapyards. I said, okay, I'll do it. And he sent the car over and brought me. And this is what I saw. And if you don't know what you're looking at, what that is it's 3 shredded helicopters that he had just imported from the United States. And he was very excited to share those shredded helicopters and his new scrapyard with me. So when I go to scrapyards, I like to look around and see what's new and unusual to me, things I didn't expect. And as Joe walked me around, we came across this. And from a distance, I thought I was seeing extension cords. I'm guessing there's some folks on the conference today who know what I was seeing. Those are not extension cords. Those were Christmas tree lights. And I was flabbergasted. I have been around the recycling industry, for most of my life. I grew up in a small Minneapolis scrapyard my family has owned for a few generations, but I'd never seen so many Christmas tree lights. And so my immediate thought when I saw these was, I want to write a book about recycling at some point, and this is going to be the opening of the book. And so, Joe, you need to take me to see how you recycle these Christmas tree lights right now. And he said, no. We've got to go to dinner. Next time you're down here, we'll do it. So it didn't happen, and it kind of became a quest of mine to find out how Christmas tree lights were recycled. And, oops. Let me go back here. And the way I started finding out was via this gentleman. This is a friend of mine. His name is Johnson Zhang. And if you've read Junkyard Planet, you know about Johnson. Starting in about 15 years ago, he came to North America, went to Vancouver, and became a roaming scrap metal buyer for people in China. And what he would do is about 6 months out of the year, he would drive around in a rental car, and he would go scrapyard to scrapyard to scrapyard, and he would buy what he knew his buyers in South China wanted. He would buy it for them, fill it into containers. He'd pay people to put it in the containers and send it on its way to China. And I traveled with him for about a week several years ago. And during that week, he spent, I believe, close to $1 million. And that was fairly normal for him. It was just a real picture into just how big the trade was at that time and how much demand there was in China for U.S. And not just US, but European and Japanese scrap metals to power their economic renaissance. Anyway, Johnson was somebody who bought a lot of Christmas tree lights. So he took me on the road with him and he said, yeah, I'll show you Christmas tree lights and I'll show you the whole cycle and how the stuff gets recycled. So we drove around the Midwest and, we saw Christmas tree lights in Missouri. We saw Christmas tree lights in Indianapolis, and we saw this pile of Christmas tree lights in North Carolina. And after a week of running around with Johnson, I said, okay, okay, you know, I got it. There's a lot of Christmas tree lights and you're shipping them all back to China. What's happening to them? And he says, okay, when you get back to Shanghai, and at the time I was living in Shanghai, he said, I'll connect you with my buddy Raymond down in Shijiao, which is in Guangdong province, and he has a Christmas tree light recycling facility, and he'll show you how it's done. So I got back to Shanghai and I flew down to Shijiao. And if you've ever spent any time doing business or journalism in China at all, you know what this is all about. Nobody's going to let you see their Christmas tree light recycling factory without having a good meal with you first, checking you out, learning all about you, and then maybe they'll let you in. There's several interesting things about this photo, but the one that's most salient at the moment is the one person you can't see in this photo is Raymond. These are his friends, his family. Raymond, you can see Raymond's legs off to the left there. He's just not somebody who likes to be photographed very much. So I am going to switch to a video. They took me into their factory after this meal and showed me it. And I'm going to try and talk over this video, and then I'll come back to the slides. And I'm going to try and lower the volume on this video because it's basically a bunch of white noise, and talk you through it. But the one thing I want you to know before we get to this video is, before Raymond developed this system with his family that you're about to see, the way Christmas tree lights were recycled in China was very simple. You put them in a pile on the ground, you pour fuel on them, you set them on fire, and when it all cools down, you've got a bunch of copper. And what he did, and others have done and copied throughout China, is he figured out a way to do it that not only recovered the copper, not only recovered the rubber, but also prevented all of that smoke from going into the air. So I'm going to click over to this video, and hopefully this works okay. And here we go. The first way you recycle Christmas tree lights at Raymond's factory is you cut them into bundles like that, and you toss them into what is a shredder. Now that's not smoke, that's steam. If you see that tube up top there, that's water being pumped in there to keep the spinning blades that are going to chop these up into that goop you see coming out, keep it from basically exploding from heat. You take that goop, and you'll see now, and you shovel it onto these tables, which are tilted upwards with water shooting across them. And what the water does is it washes all the light stuff, the plastic and the glass, to one side. And if you look at the far end of the table, you'll see all that copper. It's heavier, and we're going now to the other side. I've edited this pretty dramatically. And you get fairly pure copper coming off here. It's a lot better than setting fire to a pile of lights, and you get a much cleaner, if you will, shred. It's not high tech, but it took a long time for them to be able to calibrate this to the level that they felt it cleaned things up like they wanted it. But there you go. That's pretty great. You see a little bit of copper, a little bit of brass in there, and everything is good. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, our presentation here. Good. It worked. Wow. And I'm going to jump just to the slide. You can get a cleaner picture of it here. I always get asked by recycling professionals two things about this particular video and these methods. One, what happens to the rubber and the plastic? And at the time, the rubber and the plastic, Raymond's primary consumer was a slipper sole manufacturer. So that was going for the manufacturer of slipper soles. And the copper was going right back to a Christmas tree light manufacturer. So they may have very well been sent back to Europe or the United States, and there's increasing use of those Christmas tree lights in China as well. The second question I get is what happens to the water, and it's beautiful. The water is just circulated through the system over and over, and the local environmental authorities were very firm about that. So it's a great system, and that's how it was done. And one of the reasons that it was done that way, it wasn't just out of environmental, sort of charity and a desire to clean up the air. It was, oops, let me back up. It was done because of what you see here. At the time I took that video, this is a chart of U.S. export of all scrap commodities to China. And I took that video in 2011. I can't believe it. It's 9 years old. But you can see that was the peak year for sending American scrap, whether it's, scrap metal, but it was also paper, it was also plastic. Any of that stuff to China. And, you know, the demand was so big, there was an incentive for Chinese recyclers to try and make that copper as clean as possible, to get that plastic out of there. They needed everything they possibly could to manufacture as much stuff as they possibly could. Because if you remember, in 2008, there was the global financial crisis, 2009, and China stimulated its economy massively, made for, you know, massive manufacturing gains, and U.S. recyclers were supplying a lot of the raw materials. I, like a lot of people, thought that was going to last forever. You know, and I think anybody who was in the business a decade ago felt that way as well. But as we can see, and I think at least a few folks on this conference call know, things started to decline a little bit. There wasn't as much interest in that scrap, whether it's paper or plastic, after about 2011. And I think it's worth talking about why for a moment. And we'll jump ahead. Number one, and this doesn't get talked about very much in the recycling industry, but it's very salient because you are recyclers, but you are also raw materials manufacturers. If there isn't demand for your raw materials, if somebody doesn't want to make stuff from your stuff, it goes nowhere. And this is a really important phenomenon if you're wondering what's going to happen to your recycling next. China's population is declining. That means the working age population is declining. That means less people to manufacture. And that's also the case in places like Southeast Asia, where some of the recycling is going right now as well. What does that mean? Well, these are monthly minimum wages in China from 2010 to the present. And you can see what's happened there. You know, everybody talked about cheap manufacturing in China, cheap manufacturing in China. Well, it's not so cheap anymore. And that's what happens when you have a smaller working age population. You know, it just gets expensive. And there's other reasons for those prices to be going up. Another factor is that you know, it's becoming a more competitive place to manufacture in general. And then you have slowing GDP. You know, I decided to keep the graph in that shows the COVID drop, but you can see it back up. But take a look at what's happened, you know, really since 2011 there. You can see a slow decline in, this is GDP growth. You see a slow decline in GDP growth, and that's partly because wages are getting higher, but partly it's because a lot of the easy growth in China is over. They've built a lot of highways. You know, there's just not as much stuff to grow anymore, and as a result, the demand isn't there. Now, what does that mean for recyclers? Well, let's back up a second. Let's look what's happened in China since, or in the United States, since China stopped needing as much raw materials. The US in particular is generating more waste, and it's generating more recycling. And so, you know, I'm a recycler by birth, but I want people to step back and think about this a little bit. If you're an oil driller and your market is shrinking, you don't suddenly go and open up a bunch of new wells. But one of the things that we've done in the United States, and we've done it for some very good reasons, is we have expanded recycling precisely at the time that the world's second largest consumer of our stuff was already, this is before National Sword, was already saying, we don't need as much of it. So what happened? Here's 2014 to 2018. China needs less and less and less. And you can see what happened in 2018. But, you know, we talk about everything collapsing with the markets back, you know, when National Sword happened. But in fact, it was already declining. And some of us felt that, and some of us knew it, but the warning signs were there. And so, you know, when we got here, we were already sick as an industry. We were already having problems figuring out where some of the stuff could go. But in fact, you know, the problems predated it, and it was something that I was thinking about, and I'll get to why, before National Sword happened. So, you know, just as something to leave you with as this first part of the talk, you know, I think there's been a tendency in our industry, in our communities, to talk and to pin the blame on China, decided it's going to upgrade its demands, they're going to ban some materials. But in fact, the situation was far more complex than that. And I think if we're really, as an industry, as communities, as recyclers, going to address these issues, we really need to start thinking beyond just China bans and saying, you know, who are our consumers going to be? And I don't want to go too far into that because I know there's going to be a lot of talk about that during the conference. You know, where do we find new markets for our stuff? But I just wanted to throw it out there because it's also a very good preface to what I am going to be talking about. So why a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away? Well, whenever I find myself, and this is the honest to goodness truth, whenever I find myself sort of at a loss, needing some guidance in life, especially during COVID, I often find myself thinking back to the Star Wars films, and they are sort of the mythology of my youth. I remember going with my father to see the first ones, and you know, I guess that's just how it's worked. And Star Wars has been very instructive to me as I started thinking, you know, about 5 years ago, how the recycling industry can start to manage this sort of evaporation of our traditional consumers, especially for paper and metals in Asia. And one of the things that I've always noticed in the Star Wars films, and I'm guessing there's a few people listening today have noticed it as well, is that they are always filled with junkyards. Just having a brief drink of water here. This is episode 1. And it's, you know, right off the bat, we're walking through a junkyard. Now, everybody on this call knows what a junkyard looks like, but there's something very curious about this junkyard and most of the other junkyards that you find in Star Wars. And that is, there's no actual recycling going on. They're filled with junk, but nobody's doing anything with that stuff. They're not recycling it. And I always found that curious. You know, if you go to episode 4, the Star Wars film, here are the Jawas, and they are sort of driving around a giant junk truck, a scrap truck. And they always make me think of my relatives who came to the United States in the early 20th century, who had their junk carts, junk horse and buggy carts, and junk pickup trucks. And that's what they did. They were sort of the early 20th century Jawas picking stuff up, but they were picking it up for recycling. And if you go into the Jawa sand crawler, again, it's a lot of junk, but nothing's being broken up to be recycled. And the most curious example I always found from the Star Wars series when it comes to recycling is in The Empire Strikes Back. Now, this is an Imperial Star Destroyer, and when an Imperial Star Destroyer, before it goes into hyperspace, one of the protocols we learned from The Empire Strikes Back is that it dumps its waste. All waste needs to be dumped out. Why? I don't know. But you really have to be a waste nerd to pick up on this, and I did a few years ago. I wanted to see what it dumped. And here it is. This is what it dumps before it goes into space. Now, if you're a waste nerd like me, you're scratching your head because that looks like perfectly good steel, probably pretty good steel. And you would think that there's a scrapyard somewhere that would like to recycle that stuff, but they don't. And I thought, why on earth, you know, if you're dumping your waste, why would you dump steel? There's always a market for it, right? Then let's jump forward to the more recent trilogy. You see this, this is a Star Destroyer that's crashed on a desert planet. And when I first saw this image from the promotional videos, it made me think of this. This is along in southern India where boats are beached, ships are beached, and they are taken apart piece by piece because they're made of steel, and it's very dangerous work. I've been there. This is not my photo. This is an Edward Burtynsky photo. I wouldn't dare put one of my photos up. When you've got Edward Burtynsky photos, do it so much better. But it reminded me of this, only this isn't being disassembled. Now, why in Star Wars would they not disassemble it? Well, let's talk about my favorite character, my favorite scrapper from the Star Wars series, maybe my favorite scrapper in all of literature, and that's Rey. And if you know the films, she goes to this, and she goes to the Star Destroyer, and she doesn't take it apart. She doesn't have torches. Instead, she goes inside of it, and she pulls out small electronic components from within it. And she goes and she sells those components for basically food rations. And I thought that's interesting because you have all that steel, but what she's doing is she's taking out the parts. So what's going on in the Star Wars universe that we can learn from this? Well, you really have to go deep. Here we have this is episode 6. This is taken on the volcano planet Mustafar. It's a planet that basically has endless supplies of raw material and lightsaber fights. So anybody who needs steel can basically just put a pipe in there, pipe out the hot lava, and they've got steel. In other words, raw materials are worth nothing. So if raw materials are worth nothing, like they are in some sense, sometimes in the United States and in our recycling industry, what's the point of recycling stuff? Well, then you start looking, what is the added value product and what can you pull out of there? And you start looking for the used components, the stuff that maybe you would have melted down before. And that's precisely what you see happening in Star Wars. Instead of people knowing how to sort their cans, they know how to fix the droids. Instead of throwing C-3PO into a blue bin and melting him down, Chewbacca knows how to put him back together. And you have Rey, my sort of my spiritual guide in the world of recycling, saying I bypassed the compressor. In other words, she knows how to repair things. It's not a matter of throwing it into the blue bin. She's a master repair woman, and she recognizes value in the value adds. So let's go back to planet Earth. This is a average, run-of-the-mill electronics recycling warehouse in Vermont. It's called Goodpoint Recycling. And if you've read Secondhand, you know a little bit about Goodpoint. It's owned by a gentleman by the name of Robin Ingenthron, who I profile in the book, and a little bit of his business. Now, I had become familiar with Goodpoint several years ago. And if you are in the electronics recycling business, you probably are too. The owner of it, Robin Ingenthron, is quite proud of the fact that he ships electronics to developing countries, specifically Ghana, though he does it to other places as well. And I thought that was interesting. And so several years ago, I reached out to Robin and I said, I'd like to learn more about, what you're doing with these electronics that you're shipping into developing countries, because it's a kind of trade, as everybody knows, is a little bit stigmatized. And Robin, to, my pleasant surprise, he's become a friend, was really willing to let me take me into his world. And he invited me to go to Ghana with him to see what happens to the electronics that he ships over there. Now, this is a picture of what I expected to see in Ghana. And we have all seen these pictures. And I think, if I say the words Ghana electronics recycling, if you close your eyes and I say those words, I think most of the people on the call are thinking about images like the one we see here, the idea being that electronics are burnt. I want to read to you a paragraph written by sort of an anti-export advocate who talks about this place. This is a picture of Agbag Bloshi, which is a notorious dump in the middle of Accra, Ghana, that has sometimes been depicted as the world's largest electronics dumping zone. This is how it's sometimes described. I'm going to read this to you. This material made its arrival on African shores just some days earlier as cargo inside 40-foot intermodal corrugated containers. The shifting bricks of globalized trade turned techno-trash haulers. Around 400 of these, each containing about 600 computers or monitors, arrive each month at the port of Tamale Ghana from the UK, USA, Canada, and countless other rich and developed countries. They may find a quick stay on the floors and shelves of hundreds of secondhand markets throughout Accra. But those that do not sell, about half, even if they work perfectly, are then picked up by small boys pushing heavy carts and hauled several miles to the outskirts of town to be thrown away to Agbag Bloshi's scavengers. So we are all familiar with these accounts, and I kind of, when I first went to Ghana with Robin, thought I would be seeing these boys burning stuff, and it was all arrived in containers and dumped on the ground in Agbag Bloshi. I wanted to see if that was the case. Let's start here. This is a gentleman by the name of Olu Orga. Olu comes from a place called Tamale, which is the capital of the northern province in northern Ghana. And Olu is a trader in electronics. He imports and sometimes he buys wholesale from other importers, electronics that are shipped to Ghana. Olu got his start working in working in Accra, and he would be one of the people, one of the boys, and we'll talk about boys in a moment, pulling hand carts around Accra, buying electronics from households that can't use them anymore. And if they couldn't be used, if there was nothing usable about them, he would take them to Agbag Bloshi, where they would be taken apart and the parts sold out and some of the pieces recycled in ways that are not very safe. Olu saved his money and he was able to get into this business a little bit. When he started in Agbag Bloshi and in Accra, he was already finished with school. I believe he was 18. He was not a boy. And I was very pleased to hear talk about racial equity in the recycling industry during the intros this morning, because I think, when we hear scrap workers, especially African scrap workers referred to as boys, I get my back up a little bit, because they are adults, they are men, they are teenagers who make choices. And I think we know from our own troubled history in the United States, we don't want to necessarily refer to people of color as boys, but that's a whole different subject. Here, Olu is standing with stuff that he's imported from the United States, these are good monitors that he will sell then throughout Tamale. And his customers and his partners' customers include everything from hospitals to schools to parents who want to supply monitors to their kids for their schooling. It's a thriving business. Here is Olu with desktops that he's imported. And again, these are pictures that he puts on WhatsApp for his customers, for the people who work with him throughout Tamale. It's a town of 350,000 people. He sells mostly through WhatsApp, he and his partners, and he puts this out there and people will send him a note saying, I'd like a few of those Dell desktops. He's not importing these to set them on fire. This is where he lives. This is downtown Tamale, Ghana. I spent quite a bit of time here for Secondhand. And here is the inside of a shop that he works with very closely called Chendiba Enterprises. It's the largest retailer of computer equipment in all of Tamale, population 350,000. This is not how you see described, in some of the literature that we've read about with stuff on the floor, and these are shops where, stuff just gets tossed aside. In fact, this is a very sophisticated business. They supply to businesses throughout the region. Why do people buy secondhand? Because it's low cost. They don't need the latest Mac or the latest Dell, and they can't afford it. And there's the belief that secondhand is massively pre-tested, and so it actually provides them a better value. It's less likely to break than a new computer. Let's go back down to Accra, the capital. This is a company that I actually write about in Secondhand called Bougie Computers, owned by a wonderful guy by the name of Steve Edison. And his business is very similar to the one you see in Tamale, and there's thousands of these across Ghana. If you go inside, you see he's got his inventory. These are all laptops. Now, some of these laptops have been returned by his customers. They may trade in for a new one. Some of them may have come in, imported, say, from Robin in Vermont, and they got them and they said, we don't want to sell these outright. We'd like to use them for parts. And so you can see the level of sophisticated repair that goes on in a place like Bougie Computers. Somebody comes in with a broken screen. They've got an inventory of laptops, and they can pull off one monitor and put it on there, and you can keep that thing working. And from an environmental standpoint, from a carbon emission standpoint, that's the best thing of all. We want to keep these parts, we want to keep these computers working for as long as humanly possible. Let's move back up to northern Ghana, and I love this photo and I love this man. The man holding the Nokia black and white TV, and who knew, right? Nokia black and white TVs, is a master television repairman by the name of Ibrahim Al-Hassan. This is a town in northern Ghana called Savalugu. It's a very small town, about 20 miles, about a 30-minute drive from Tamale. And he repairs everybody's televisions. And he is really, really good. He apprenticed, learned the trade from others, and he continues, and you're seeing right, to work on tube televisions. And he doesn't just work on them, he retrofits them. And it's because poverty, it's because income levels are low. And what you see going on here is a really interesting repair. This is an old, I believe it's a 35-year-old Sony Trinitron, and it broke. And the owner doesn't want to buy a new one. A new one would cost around $10. The repair is going to cost around 3+ parts. And so it stopped working. And what Ibrahim said is, okay, I'll fix it for you, but you've got a manual channel changer, so you actually have to change it, manually. I can actually install a remote control on this thing, so you don't need to change channels manually anymore. And that's what he did, and I watched him do it. And that's something you don't see many people pulling off in the United States anymore. One, because we've all upgraded, I guess if you can look at it as upgrading to flat screens, but they're continuing to be used there. And this notion that this stuff is coming off the boat, in Tema, down in Accra, and immediately being moved into dumps, it's completely false. Anything that can be used of any vintage is going to find a market in these developing markets. And if it's broken, they're going to continue fixing it. One last point I want to make in this. If you look behind Ibrahim, you'll see a bunch of televisions back there. That's his inventory. Those are the parts. So, televisions that come in that maybe aren't working anymore, or somebody doesn't want anymore, he'll buy them for parts. You'll see this. This is one of my favorite repair guys in Tamale, Kamal. Sorry, not Kamal, Kareem. He has his own inventory of flat screens, and you're seeing more and more repair of flat screens in the region now, and they'll keep those, again, for parts. Last repair guy I want to show you, this is a guy by the name of Ishmael Rahman, and that's Robin Ingenthron. Ishmael and Robin have been talking about the need for parts. You know, the great bottleneck to ensure that Ghanaian stuff, computers, phones, washing machines, refrigerators can be repaired is they need parts. And so Robin, you know, is not only going there and talking to folks about, you know, what whole units do you want? What computers do you want? But he's going and talking to them, what parts do you want? What can I send you to help so you keep these devices working longer? And Ishmael is also one of the great masters of repair in Northern Ghana, primarily focused on laptops. And one of the things he does, and it's hard to see in this picture, but that's a device that basically allows him to fix the pins on chips. And it's a Chinese device. He actually imported it from China. And I'm showing it to you because the computer that I wrote Junkyard Planet on had a fault on it right before I went to Ghana. So I took it with me, and it turned out that there was a chip on it. Basically, there was some kind of short and the pins melted. So he actually took it out and repaired the pins on that, put it back in, and that laptop is now being used by a student in Northern Ghana. Actually, I think it's in Kumasi, Central Ghana. He kept it going, whereas that laptop would have been trashed and recycled, you know, in the United States. So let's go back to the United States and back to Vermont. You know, one of sort of the, I would say, I think one of the presumptions we have as developed world recyclers is the idea that the rest of the world should be learning from our best practices. And one of the reasons that I like Robin is that he's flipped that. After traveling to Ghana and seeing all of these computers and all of these televisions being cannibalized for parts so that they could keep other devices going, he started thinking, maybe we can do this in the United States and pull these parts out. In other words, learn from Ghana. You know, recyclers in the United States learn from Ghana, which is something that we don't do. And you know, and I think we could have some interesting discussions about structural racism sort of related to that as well, but maybe that's for another talk. What I think is just from a purely economic standpoint, Robin's doing something really interesting. And so he started pulling parts. And of course, he didn't invent pull-aparts. I mean, we've been doing it with cars for years, and I know there's folks in California pulling parts out of computers, but he started doing it on a fairly mass level and selling the parts on eBay. And it's a really good business for him. It's grown dramatically. But one of the things he started realizing is going to Ghana is the parts that he's pulling in Vermont that aren't selling in the United States, there's oftentimes a market for them in Ghana because they're using older generations of stuff. And so here you have Robin, and this is a live action photo in a way, talking to my friend Wahab Muhammad, who's one of the stars of Secondhand. And I was in Vermont when they were having this conversation. Robin and Wahab went through the warehouse and said, you know, what parts can we start sending to Ghana so that we can support these repair communities so that when stuff breaks down in Ghana, they can continue fixing. Nothing's going to last forever, but let's try. Let's see what we can do. And so Robin and Wahab had spent several days going through what parts would work. And you can see the parts are now in bubble wrap. And Wahab is going to take these parts back to Ghana. And they, I think you can see Robin's got a look on his face because I believe they were negotiating some prices related to this stuff as well. And so they say in the book, they're good friends, but they are also business partners. And so, they can get grumpy with each other at times as well. But this is a really cool thing. And I don't take it on faith that this stuff just happens. What you see here is Wahab back in Tamale. This is actually from a Skype conversation. And he's standing with a gentleman by the name of Awudu Pan, who is, he is one of the heads of the television repair union that's been formed in Kumasi, which is one of the repair capitals of the world in central Ghana. But so much of the electronics, whether it be refrigerators, washing machines, computers, especially televisions, flow into West Africa. So much of that stuff flows into Kumasi, where they're some of the best repair people in the world, do things that nobody would even think about doing in the United States. And so Awudu Pan came up to Tamale to go through this stuff with Wahab, and they are working on ways to supply into Ghana and to supply the stuff that they want. And so why have I brought this all to you? you know, certainly repair is not going to fix our problems with recycling markets, and repair is only one component, you know, a very small component now of what we should be doing. But I'm very enthusiastic about repair for a number of reasons. One, I think we should be seeking ways to extend the lifespans of our products all over the place. You know, it helps the climate, but it also helps our recycling streams. Two, you know, when we start thinking about repair, and there's good consumer reporting on this, when people start thinking about repair, they start taking care of their things better. They start buying for duration, buying for durability. You know, if you think your device is going to be repairable, you know, and your device is a car, you know, I don't know about the folks on this conference today, but when I buy a car, I'm thinking, what's the resale value? And if people know that something is repairable, if they know that there's an aftermarket for pieces of it or the whole thing, they start making better decisions and looking for durable goods. And we see that, you know, in the United States happening, for example, with smartphones and with Apple. You can trade in your phone. So I think these are two very, very positive things, and it's very empowering to consumers. And so it's one of the messages I wanted to leave you with today. I know that, you know, California's had a right to repair discussion, but I think, you know, thinking about repair goes beyond just thinking about right to repair. It's right to repair for more than just people in California. It's a global economy of repair that ensures that people in developing countries who are using older generations of stuff can repair their stuff too, and that benefits all of us. I want to end with something that I don't like to do in many talks, and that is show really, really messy graphs and charts. But I think the two I'm going to show you here are very instructive as to what I'm talking about as I wrap up. And this is a chart that was put together by Josh Leposki, a brilliant geographer in Canada, who has done wonderful work on how e-waste, electronic waste flows around the world, and he's been doing it for years. Groundbreaking work, and I really recommend to you Josh Leposki's books, and I recommend to you also bringing him in to talk, because I'm always shy about talking about his work because I know he can do it better. But let me tell you what this is. This is a map of global e-waste flows in 1996. And what we have here is actually much simpler than it looks. If you look at the blue circles, those are developed countries. And when you see a blue circle with a blue line coming out of it, that means electronic waste flowing to another developed country. When you see a green line coming out of a blue circle, that is electronic waste flowing from a developed country to a developing country. And when you see yellow circles, those are developing countries. Those are, and who might be receiving stuff from developed countries, but you also see some yellow lines. Those are developing to developing. That means, say, somebody like China sending electronic waste to Pakistan, which happens. And the thicker the line, the bigger the flow. Now, I want you to take a look, and this is very instructive, and it sort of shows us how we've all sort of been behind the ball in this industry. We jump ahead to 2012. Look how much more yellow there is on there. And that's what I think we all need to be thinking about in this industry as we think about repair. Because what that tells us is a decade ago, between 1996 and 2012, all of these developing countries, which we think of in the United States and in Europe and Japan as being dumped upon, they were trading used electronics with each other. And they weren't doing it, Pakistan wasn't dumping on Afghanistan. Trust me, this was all about shifting parts and reusables between these markets where that's their price point and the desire to repair things. And we've sort of been behind the ball on this, I think, in the United States, because we've still sort of kept this mindset that there's an element of dumping, that we're giving them something they don't want, instead of there being an active purchasing relationship saying, we want to get this stuff. Now, maybe we can get into this in Q&A. I don't want to deny that there's environmental issues involved in the electronics recycling industry, and there certainly are. And we've all heard the talks, but I think it's a much more nuanced industry, and it provides some real opportunities, not just sort of in the cognitive space about how we can think about repair and expanding our waste economies, but also it's real opportunities as businesses that do electronics. And it requires work, but building up the China markets required work too. I mean, the first shipments of US recycling into China happened in the early 1980s, and it really took about 15 years before it scaled up to a level that a lot of folks were noticing it. So what I like to do is leave you with a picture of Ray. I love Ray. I think she is everything that, you know, at least as electronics recyclers, but all of us, whether we're thinking about clothing and needing to mend clothing or any of these other ways, you know, we're looking at reducing our overall waste burden or working. She's so instructive to me and such an inspiration. And I, you know, I'd like to leave you with a photo of her, and I'd like to hear any of your questions and comments. And I'm just really grateful for the chance to be here. And I hope that we'll have the chance to get together in person at some point down the line.
Thanks so much, Adam. That was amazing. I have to say, I think we're all super geeking out right now. So yes, we're going to go to questions. So everybody knows with the keynotes, the chat feature is not enabled, which you probably figured that already. And so you can go into the Q&A and hit in your question there, and then I'll go ahead and ask them to Adam. So our first question, Adam, is what happens to the e-waste at the very end of life in Ghana?
I am so glad you asked that question, because I think that's the big question. What do we do with it when they can't use it anymore? There's a couple of answers to that. One, it piles up. And I've seen on my last trip there, you see piles of CRTs in parts of the country where just sitting there, because we all know there's not that much in the way of raw materials to pull out of those, especially in the current markets. In a place like Accra, where you have more density, you know, Accra is several million people, when it can't be used anymore, when all the usable parts are pulled out of it, then they head into Agbogbloshie. You know, and what you see in Agbogbloshie, you know, that famous dump, is, you know, third and fourth and fifth generation electronics, stuff that's been used in Ghana, you know, for years and years and gone through owners. And that's the stuff, the wires that you will see burning in there. And, you know, if that's what's going to happen with it, there's less and less burning because the China markets have discovered Ghana, and so they're pulling it in. But there's no question that's what happens there. And then increasingly, at a very small level, you do see some international organizations starting to actually pay for shipments of that material out of Ghana. And we've seen refiners in Belgium. I think we know who they are. They will actively buy electronic components in Ghana. It's a good price point for them, and they will bring those electronic components back to Belgium. They do that in India as well. So that's increasingly happening. But ultimately, for these developing countries, that's my big concern. Is when you get to the end of the life of these things, that 35-year-old Trinitron, how many more, you know, owners is it going to have? We need a solution for that. The solution to that, in my opinion, is not to say, okay, no more secondhand coming into Ghana. I don't think that benefits anyone. And in a sense, if you say no more secondhand, you might as well say no more new stuff. Ghanaians can't buy new Apple stuff, can't buy new Dell stuff, can't buy new Sony stuff either, because there's no way to recycle that either. So ultimately, I think it's going to be up to the OEMs.
Great, thank you. Our next question. Did I miss Adam's wonderful talk as to why e-waste goes to Ghana? Why such a concentration there? And do all these e-waste stay in Ghana or ship to other countries?
Right. Well, actually, Ghana is a very small part of the overall global e-waste trade. I first went to Ghana because I saw all this coverage of it, and I thought, well, this must be a real depot for it. It's not. What it is it's a really easy place for reporters to go. There's not high visa requirements, and it's, you know, it's just a very easy place to travel. There's no problems doing it. But in Africa, the biggest destinations for electronics are going to be Benin, and most of that stuff goes into Nigeria, Kenya as well. Now, as I said, Kumasi, which is a town in central Ghana, very interesting place, they get a lot of electronics there, and they do distribute throughout West Africa, including up to Burkina Faso. But by far, Benin is the biggest player. But I've gone to Ghana simply because it's received so much attention, and it's been mislabeled as the world's largest e-waste dump. And if you look at the numbers that they have, and they keep actually pretty good data in Ghana in terms of used stuff coming in, it's not even a dent in what the overall flow of this stuff is.
Do you see EPR laws requiring manufacturers to deal with their waste as helpful?
Yes, I do, and I think they'd be more helpful if we could find a way to extend those laws into developing countries, because ultimately, I think we want to see this stuff get used as long as possible. And my fear with, EPR laws is that it may curtail the lives of stuff, keep it out of countries where maybe, that Trinitron could be used another couple decades instead of going right back into the recycling stream. And so, I'm just the guy on the call here, in front of my computer saying, if I had my way, I'd like to see more, input from developing countries and traders in developing countries who know what the opportunities are to keep these things running before they go into the EPR.
Is the amount of plastic in electronics a problem? It seems like the percentage of plastic in electronics has increased over time.
I love talking to state recycling organizations. You guys know the issues. Yes, it is a big problem. And it's a big problem for reasons that, one, I'll leave the environmental side of it aside for a second. From an economic perspective, more plastics means there's less value in the recycling stream. It makes it harder for the recyclers to make money off the precious metals or even the non-precious metals, whether it's aluminum or steel. From an environmental perspective, absolutely, because obviously we all know it's very hard to sort plastics right now, and plastics in places like Ghana or Kenya or even in the United States, but especially in these emerging markets, they tend to get processed in environmentally unsound ways. And so again, for me, at least for now, that's another incentive to keep this stuff running as long as possible.
How can we provide old machines, PCs and Macs to Ghana? Can you provide the US link? So maybe you could provide some suggestions and we can send it out to our membership.
Right. Well, that's hard. I mean, and this is, when I think of Ghana, I think of the United States and the Chinese recycling trade in the early 1980s. It was done by the diaspora. So it was Taiwanese Americans who, and Taiwanese in Taiwan who had the ability through family and political links to go into China, and they would go to the United States, buy the stuff, and they could get it in. Right now, I highlighted Robin, but Robin would be the first to tell you that if he had not developed a relationship with Muhammad, who would come to hit Goodpoint Recycling to buy the stuff, he wouldn't be able to do this. And so much of what's going into Ghana, so much of what's going into Benin and Nigeria, I would say 98% of it is being done by the diaspora, the Ghanaian diaspora in the United States, the Nigerian diaspora. So when folks ask me, how do I get involved with this? Get to know the people who are coming into your facilities or going into electronics facilities who are from these places, because they are the ones who know what the markets are. There's big markets, but they're micro markets within there. And it's not something as, somebody sitting in Los Angeles wants to do on their own. The cost of going to Ghana, well, especially at this point, is very high. You'd be looking for customers. You wouldn't be used to the business culture. You want somebody who's a Ghanaian American, say, or at least somebody who comes in frequently and knows how to do it, because they're constantly looking. I just met a security guard the other day. I was masked, don't worry. I was talking to him, and he's sending electronics over there, and he's sending them to Accra, and I was like, wow, what a great business partner for somebody. Somebody should meet. His name's Gideon. I think he'd be okay with me saying his first name. He's a security guard, and that's his side gig, what a side hustle. What a cool thing, sending electronics goods to Ghana, to his neighborhood, and they're buying it, and it's helping support his family. So that would be my advice on doing it.
So one last question. What next book are you going to write?
Oh boy. Well, I do have something in mind, and I'm starting to sort of assemble it. At this point, I wish I could be traveling, because if you read my books, they involve a lot of travel. And right now I'm in Minnesota, and my ability to research this book is pretty limited from here, at least in terms of being able to go out. I prefer not to say what it is yet in case I change it. But there will be another one, and hopefully it will have a lot of travel and some insights, and it will touch. It will be of direct interest to recyclers and folks in the waste industry.
Well, thank you so much. This has been super informational. I have to tell you, I actually didn't buy your books. I actually do audio. So it's a secondhand thing, right?
I'll engrave your iPod,
That sounds perfect.
No, thank you.
Yeah, Adam's going to have a book club today at 12:15. If you haven't signed up for it, you can go to your email from last night. There's a link that you can sign in to be able to come to the book club. There's a lot of questions still in the Q&A box that haven't been answered. So it would be great if you came to the book club and we can have further discussion with Adam. So thank you so much. We're really grateful that you were here today and for letting us geek out with you.
Thanks so much. And I'm really looking forward to the book club. Bring all questions. That's what it's about. I'm not really giving a talk. It's a chance to just discuss. It'll be great.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to awards. And I don't want anybody to go anywhere because we've got some fantastic videos that you're going to want to watch. So I'm going to hand this over to Colleen to get us started.
Thank you, Tracy. And thank you, Adam. I have your book and I'm a huge fan. I'm also a huge Star Wars fan, so thank you for all those references. I was enjoying your talk, and actually my sidekick in my whole home office is my little Lego.
There you go. Yeah.
He's my guy. I love how he replaces his eyes and stuff and everything through the movie. So hey, we got to have some inspiration on a daily basis. So what a phenomenal morning, even through some of our technical difficulties. Some of my big takeaways, I was just thinking back to yesterday's policy committee. We spent so much time talking about, defining and improving, recyclability and compostability, where I really think we need to change our conversation and really encourage policy and legislation that incentivizes reuse and repair, and incentivizes products are made for durability and made for repair. So I really hope we can engage in this even further throughout the conference, because I think we need to see improvement. We're looking too much downstream and need to look upstream so that we can ensure these viabilities of repair economies. So thank you. Thank you for that inspiration. And then also I'd like to thank Ken for being here with us this morning. Phenomenal talk. Yes, it was deep, but definitely inspiring. Our industry is a critical and essential industry, and we must really continue to move forward and not let naysayers, create roadblocks. We need to overcome that and be successful with our environmental goals, because at the end of the day, environmental and sustainability is really important to our economic recovery and really brings good jobs to our communities. So with that, I want to move over to awards. Not only do we get to talk about the things that we need to do as we move forward, but we get to celebrate our leaders and, to me, our heroes in the CRRA community for what they're doing throughout the year for sustainability and for organization. CRRA is proud to announce the 2020 award recipients for the CRRA Service Award, the Rick Best Environmental Advocacy Award, and the CRRA Recycler of the Year Award. So with that, we've got a couple of videos that we're going to show. Our first award that we're going to be providing is the Service Award. The CRRA Service Award honors individuals who have rendered exceptional service to the association, including contributions of time, expertise, or resources that significantly exceeded expectations. So our first awardee, who is most deserving, who is, I think, responding to 100 emails and 1 million texts and calls, and it has been a phenomenal throughout this year to get us, through some of our most significant challenges and be successful. And it has been phenomenal for the past 5 years in her service to CRRA. So with that, I'm really honored and pleased to recognize Despina Kritsilis. We're going to show a video about Despina and then give her a few minutes to say a few words. So congratulations, Despina.
On behalf of the CRRA board, I'm thrilled to acknowledge Despina's Service Award this year. She's so well deserving in so many different ways. Over the years, I've worked with her as a board member and an executive director, and I just have to say that I don't know what we would do without her. She's so efficient and productive. She always has a warm smile. Anybody who's talked with her can definitely see that she's a huge asset to this organization. This year in particular was incredibly difficult with having to go virtual with our conference, and literally the minute she realized that was going to happen, she started researching and making sure that CRRA was in the best position to be able to host a conference for its members, as well as to make sure that we're financially whole. So on behalf of the board, I just want to say thank you, Despina. You are incredible, amazing, and I hope that you never leave CRRA, because I don't know what we would do without you. Congratulations on your award.
True or false? I hired Despina. False. I did, however, chair the selection committee that selected and recommended John Dane as our executive director. And John Dane, in his great wisdom, found and hired Despina. True or false? I taught Despina everything she knows. False. Despina appears to have descended from Mount Olympus, The fully formed managerial and administrative goddess that she is, Despina's capacity to manage every situation, large and small, with grace and competence and consistency is just amazing. Her capacity to identify improvement opportunities, track them, and execute them over year after year is just astounding. True or false? Despina is mortified by praise and attention. True. This fact delights me. I invite all CRRA members to heap praise and attention on Despina because she so richly deserves it. Despina, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of your great work. Big love, and keep up the great work.
My name is Lauren Molinari, otherwise known as Despina's right-hand woman. Together, we've managed the daily operations of CRRA for the last 4.5 years, but I've actually known Despina for the last 12 years because we worked together at a previous organization. Despina is the reason that I have this job at CRRA, and I'm so incredibly grateful to her for that. It's been an amazing blessing in my life. Despina, you are so deserving of this award. I admire your work ethic, your tenacity, and your ability to juggle so much at one time. You always get the job done. You always get it done, no matter what it takes. So thank you for being a strong teammate, a protective manager, and a personal friend. Congratulations.
Hi, Despina. Congratulations. I so hope you're surprised. Thank you for everything that you've done for CRA. This organization is a better organization because of everything you do every day, between conferences, between events. You serve our membership in the greatest of ways. So today we honor you, Despina, and thank you and congratulations again.
So I'm wearing this mask, not only to be safe, but can you tell if I'm sweating putting on a virtual conference, or am I hiding the joy at being given this honor? Thank you so much. I'm one of the lucky people who goes to work every day completely inspired by the people I get to work with and to be influenced by. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so proud to work with all of you. And here you go, Tracy, you wanted to see me cry. You're going to get to see me cry. Thank you all so much. I hope that I make you proud. I hope that I can give you a platform to share your knowledge, your experience, and to make a difference in the world. And if I can contribute to that even a tiny bit, it's a great, great day for me. So thank you all. And I hope that you have a great week. And I look forward to many, many more days and conferences working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Despina. If anyone knows you, you are always the one to respond. You are so responsive every day, every hour, morning, noon, at night. We wouldn't survive without you, Despina. So you really are phenomenal, and you really have led a great team for us. So thank you. We were really excited to surprise you. So we kept this secret from Despina for the past like 2.5 months. So congratulations. You are very deserving.
Thank you.
Well, sorry about the video. We hopefully can play it later throughout the conference. Our next awardee is Peter Sloat, an amazing friend, colleague, and mentor who I am so excited to present this award to. So I am gonna try the video again. If it doesn't work, then we're just gonna go straight to Peter, because we all know Peter. He's a great ham, has great hair, and he can hold the stage. So let's try the video and then we'll get over to Peter. The CRA Service Award is going to Peter Sloat. Peter was first elected in 2008, has been conference chair in 2012, 2016, and 2018. was the program chair in 2016, has been the policy chair for many years, and has overall been a major driver behind the CRRA organization. He's been a major participant throughout our certification committee, and he has brought CRRA forward in some of the most challenging of times. CRRA has been made better by Peter Sloat.
Hi, good morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to many of the individuals who contributed to my capacity to serve CRRA over the past 12 years. First, I'd like to thank my wonderful wife, Stacy Kaplan, for her robust support of all my professional endeavors. I want to thank all my supervisors and managers at the City of Oakland over the years, particularly Brooke Levin, Susan Catchy, and Becky Dowdikin. Also, with big gratitude to Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, who is a true zero waste and climate protection warrior. Thank you to my colleagues, all of them over the years in the solid waste and recycling program and our broader environmental services division family. And of course, my profound thanks and appreciation to CRRA staff, our unicorn executive director, Tracy Bills, our extraordinary director of administration, Despina Kritsulis, and everyone on Team Despina. You know who you are. I'm grateful to every individual who has served as a board member or senior advisor during my tenure, but I'd like to call out 4 individuals for whom I'm particularly grateful. The 4 presidents of CRRA that I supported as vice president during most of my tenure. Julie Muir, Tracy Bills, Rob Hilton, and our current president, Colleen Foster. I cannot fully express to you how hardworking and savvy Julie, Tracy, Rob, and Colleen have been on behalf of CRRA, or the sacrifices that they have made. In her 2018 acceptance speech, CRRA Service Award winner Shauna McCracken invoked Tikkun Olam, the Jewish precept about our duty to repair the world. I invoke it again today. We must repair our relationship with the resources upon which our well-being relies. And I suggest to you that CRRA is a powerful agent of that repair. Yet CRRA doesn't carry on, doesn't persist all by itself. It persists only because of the intentional support it receives from individuals and organizations. So I'll close with this. Ask not why Peter Sloat received this service award. Ask instead how CRRA serves you and contributes to your mission. Think about that when it's time to renew your membership, register your staff in our professional certification program, join one of our technical councils, or renew your organization's sponsorship agreement. Don't take this wonderful organization for granted. Thank you.
Peter, I can give you a virtual hug. Oh, thank you. That is so inspiring and yet so true. So I really thank you for all your service, and you're not going anywhere. Peter, all these years, he steps up to the plate, whether he's volunteered or voluntold, and he's phenomenal, and he makes all of us better members. And for me personally, a better leader within my day-to-day job and through CRRA. So thank you for that, Peter. And same note, everyone take advantage of what this organization has to offer and be vocal. We want to hear from you. We serve you, and we want to make this organization a better organization through your voice. So please participate, just in the same way that we've seen those inspirational leaders, all of whom Peter mentioned. So I am not going to touch anything, and supposedly our next video will work. Our next award is the Rick Best Environmental Award. And Peter and the awards team has done a great job this year to put together a brief video about, who Rick Best really is and why this award is so special to our organization and why it's so meaningful to the person being honored with the award today.
In December of 2002, our hearts were broken at the loss of one of our industry's biggest heroes. A graduate of Cal Poly, policy director at Californians Against Waste, president of Grassroots Recycling Network, and eventually a staff member in the California State Assembly, Rick Best was only 32 years old when his life was tragically ended in a car accident. As a paraplegic from birth, his inspiring passion, unwavering character, and tireless work in the early years of California's recycling industry inspired a legacy to all who knew Rick.
Rick, almost from the very beginning, inspired me, inspired the rest of the staff at Californians Against Waste, and all of the other environmental activists, because it was a challenge to be an environmental activist in those days under any circumstances. And Rick was doing the work that we were doing from a wheelchair. And he never let that wheelchair impact him. He never let it hold him back. Rick had every excuse in the world to kind of, maybe just take it easy on some things. And he worked harder than anyone else in the environmental community. I mean, he was at the office for hours. He made himself an expert at local recycling plans. He made himself an expert in composting, in food waste composting, in green waste composting. He made himself an expert in terms of the viability of using recycled content in plastic containers. And that wasn't, by accident. He wasn't successful because people felt sorry for him. He was successful because he worked hard. Tenacious, persevering, hardly they just scratched the surface, because this was a guy who overcame so much, but he never talked about what he was overcoming. He just did it.
I admired Rick from the first day we met, because what was clear to me anyway in that first experience, and then every experience after that with Rick, is his fundamental integrity, decency, intelligence about the subject matter, and more than anything, a deep and abiding personal commitment to making California a better place to live. He was admired in the Capitol for his fundamental integrity. You didn't wonder whether he added something or subtracted something or multiplied something or divided something. What you knew was you were getting absolutely the straightforward advocacy. It was advocacy because it was for an outcome. He had a value system and a personal belief system that translated well into legislative work and public policy making. A lot of people engage in what are called political truths, and that is the truth, but not the whole truth. And one of the things that was particularly admirable in Rick was that you got the whole truth, and then you could make up your mind where you wanted to go. He was an advocate for one outcome versus the other, but he gave you the whole truth with which to deal. I just admired the heck out of Rick, loved him deeply. The staff, to a person, thought Rick was one of the best people we had.
CAW, as a group activity, all went backpacking, and there were two routes to get to the coast, and they decided to take the more adventurous routes, including Rick. So for a portion of it, everybody was in good spirits, and they carried his chair over the most difficult parts of the trail. But when we got to the end of the beach, we played Frisbee, and that was one of our great bonds, Rick and I. Things like companionship, just wanting friends to hang out with, and people who wanted to hang out in his company became a little bit more of a challenge for him than others. But also, I think because of that, his friendship had a richness that we could all learn from. Not just a great legislative advocate, but I believe that Rick Best should be known and celebrated as a well-rounded and socially engaged person on all fronts.
We sometimes joke about the difference between, having a belief and being able to prove the belief. Rick was able to prove that what he was doing was the correct answer. For me, his legacy was his knowledge that he could talk about any number of topics around the recycling world and talk with knowledge as well as passion.
The Rick Best Environmental Advocacy Award honors lifetime environmental stewardship achievements and recognizes individuals who effectively advocate for Earth's natural systems. The award is for achievements that go beyond reuse, recycling, and composting to encompass air and water quality, resource protection, and climate action.
What Stiv has done for our environment and in the fight against single-use plastics has been phenomenal.
Hi, my name is Stiv Wilson. I am the co-founder of the Peak Plastic Foundation and the creator of the Story of Plastic film. Really, this work began for me from being an ocean lover and seeing plastic on a beach over a decade ago. And at the time, I was a journalist, and I started writing about it. And I wanted to understand, what were the implications for this material at the end of life? And also, where was it coming from? And standing in a landfill in the Philippines, I recognized, when we say something is thrown away, these are the kind of places where it goes, and these are the kind of people it impacts. So yes, plastic has a serious problem for biodiversity, but it also has a really big issue with human rights. And so in creating this film, we tied the whole system together in hopes that, armed with this knowledge, activists could intersect and work on campaigns between the global north and the global south, and the deep south and the north of the United States, and the upstream and downstream. Because we can't continue to just sort of put Band-Aids on this issue and product by product bans. We really need to reinvent the whole system, and that means producing less plastic and truly innovating new systems so that our products are delivered in other ways, because the cost to human life and biodiversity is too much. And I've dedicated my career and my life to solving those problems in creative ways and working with massive amounts of stakeholders from all over the world, and hopefully tying it all together into a strategy that we can finally solve this problem once and for all. I am so honored to receive this award. I'm in really good company. Thank you so much, and I'm excited for the work ahead.
Our next awardee today is for the Recycler of the Year award. This is a very special award in that it honors some of our champions that really have spent their entire life and their career dedicated to improving recycling, improving zero waste advocacy, and just kind of the boots on the ground in regards to what we do for CRRA and recycling. So this year's awardee is Cray Hampel. Cray is just phenomenal, a mover and shaker. And if you ever get the opportunity to sit down with him and talk to him and really learn from his experience, he really believes in a sustainable system at the community level, has done phenomenal work to support, community composting, community gardening, as well as, improved our recycling industry through the Burbank Recycling Center and through the city of Burbank. Although Craig couldn't make it today, I am very honored to be able to honor him with this award. I really enjoyed talking to him recently when we announced him as the awardee, and he was really touched and moved by it because he has been a long time CRRA member and has served this organization and has served our collective goals for zero waste and sustainability. So with that, I want to thank and congratulate all of our award winners. Despina, Peter, Stiv, and Cray, our organization wouldn't be here without you. So thank you, everyone. I think that wraps up the majority of our session today. I am just checking on a few notes and a million texts and everything. Thank you again for being patient with us. Our sessions will be a lot simpler, and tomorrow's plenary will be phenomenal because we will figure everything out. But before we move on and release you to amazing content and amazing sessions, I'd like to introduce another. You know, what's interesting about CRA is all of you guys are my peers and my colleagues, but what's beautiful about CRA, if I've spent time with you over the past decade at our conferences, you are also my friends. You are the people that I go to improve what I'm doing on a daily basis and to seek therapy from all the challenges at the very least. So with that, I'd like to introduce Doug Kobold, the Executive Director of the California Product Stewardship Council. Doug has been a phenomenal leader and has done a great job in taking over the leadership of CPSC. And Doug's going to be announcing the CPSC Annual Awards. So there you go, Doug. Thank you.
Colleen, thank you very much. And thank you to, so I'm the Executive Director of California Product Stewardship Council, as Colleen mentioned. And I wanted to thank, on behalf of the CPSC board and staff, thank CRRA for allowing us to continue to have this relationship and be able to present our awards to some very deserving awardees. This is our 11th annual award ceremony. And while there are many deserving individuals and organizations, we can only select a few. And we have 4 awards we're giving out today, and we'll give out another 2 tomorrow. But if your nominee didn't win, or if you think there's someone that's deserving of a award, please submit that nomination next year for our 2021 awards, and hopefully we'll be able to select them as the next award winner. So like I mentioned, we give out 4 awards. Our Green Arrow Award is for system design and innovations. I will be presenting that award. Our Bow and Arrow Award is for coalition building and outstanding business partnerships. Joanne Brash from my staff will be presenting that award. The Infinity Award is for service and take back. And so Nate Pelzer from my staff will be presenting that one. And then finally, our last award for today will be the Golden Arrow Award, which is for overall excellence in product stewardship. And I will be presenting that one. If we can start the slideshow, please. There we go. All right. Again, this is our 11th annual awards. Let's go ahead and advance the slide. So our awards are created. They're handcrafted. These beautiful awards are handcrafted by Ellen Blakely of Ellen Blakely Studios. And she has, if we go to the next slide, please. As you can see, these things are beautiful. They're made of recycled glass. And all the flora you see in those under that glass is from Ellen's own property. Next slide, please. So like I said, I will be presenting the first award, our Green Arrow Award for System Design and Innovations. And that award goes to, next slide, Sirius Signal for Life. So Sirius Signal is out of Encinitas, California. Joe Gallo is their Chief Executive Officer. Sirius, their goal is to replace the toxic single-use pyrotechnic marine flares with reusable LED versions. The average shelf life of a pyrotechnic device is between 36 and 42 months from the manufacture date, creating a constant waste stream in California that we are not equipped to handle. As you probably have heard, there's a lot of issues with marine flares. So Joe has taken the latest technology, commercialized it, and then has been collaborating with CPSC. What's special about this? Sirius Signal is the only Coast Guard approved reusable device that's for both day and night. And we have a video.
Hi, I'm Steve Caldero, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Sirius Signal. All of us at Sirius Signal would like to thank the California Product Stewardship Council for the Green Arrow Award for Systems Design and Innovation. Sirius Signal began in 2014 when Anthony Cavelli, a lighting engineer, and Bob Simon, a 35-year veteran of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, got together to come up with an alternative to pyrotechnic flares for recreational boaters that is safe and environmentally friendly. This collaboration resulted in the C1001, the world's first Coast Guard approved EVSD, electronic visual distress signal device. It's family friendly, lasts for hours, not seconds, never expires, and is made in the USA. Sales of the C1001 over the last 4 years have resulted in the ability to take over 1 million toxic flares out of the ecosystem. Pyrotechnic flares expire 42 months from the date of manufacture. Recreational boaters are required to carry at least 3 nighttime signaling devices to be Coast Guard compliant. Handheld flares are the most common devices carried by recreational boaters. The problem is that they're a danger to operate because as they burn, they drip 2,000-degree sledge, and there's no ongoing disposal program. The United States Coast Guard report on expired flares estimates that over 170,000 flares expire every year in California. One handheld flare disposed of improperly has the potential to pollute over 240,000 gallons of groundwater. Expired flares are considered 1.4 explosive hazardous waste by the ATF, and they cannot be turned in at most household hazardous waste events in the state of California. CRRA Signal routinely participates in local boat shows and boating safety programs to educate boaters on the hazard of pyrotechnic flares. CRRA Signal is fully supportive of the CPSC's mission to save local tax dollars and resources to come up with a comprehensive, safe, and convenient recycling program. We at CRRA Signal are grateful for this award. Please visit us at crrasignal.com to see the latest in boating safety products and our ongoing recycling effort. And remember, CRRA Signal for life.
Thank you, CRRA Signal. My name is Joanne Brash. I am a staff member at the California Product Stewardship Council, and today I'm going to present the award for the Bow and Arrow. Thank you. So the Bow and Arrow Award is for outstanding business partnerships. We give it to an organization or a company who is excelling in coalition building and building those relationships to move waste reduction further. Next slide. This year's award winner is Rethink Disposable, which is a grassroots campaign hosted by Clean Water Action and Clean Water Action Fund. This campaign works with local businesses, local policymakers, and consumers to reduce single-use plastic from food service. So Grace Lee, the director at Clean Water Action, will be accepting the award via video to share in what they do and how they build a coalition to address this waste issue. We invite everyone to join Rethink Disposable on social media and in their campaign so that we can together reduce more single-use plastic from food service.
Hi everyone. On behalf of Rethink Disposable and Clean Water Action and Clean Water Fund, I want to thank you so much for this honor and this award. It's amazing that an organization like CPSC acknowledges the fact that we are tackling a global waste crisis, and it's going to take more than one organization and one person to tackle it, and it's going to take partners and a coalition of people. So it's really on behalf of all the amazing partners that we've worked with throughout the years to bring our work to light. So thank you again.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nate Pelzar, Special Project Manager with CPSC. I'm here today to recognize the winner of CPSC's Infinity Arrow Award, which focuses on service and take-back. Our winner this year is Refill Madness. Refill Madness is Sacramento's must-visit zero-waste store, offering refill services on a wide variety of everyday products, as well as a place to visit when recycling hard-to-recycle items such as toothbrushes and shaving razors. We at CPSC recognize Refill Madness as their store serves as a model, scalable to all communities of all sizes. It's also worth mentioning that one of the owners and founders of Refill Madness, Sloan Reed, is active at the Capitol, advocating for producer responsibility and source reduction in waste legislation. Let's take a look at the video.
Hi, and thank you so much. Refill Madness is so grateful to accept the Infinity Arrow Award from the California Product Stewardship Council for our take-back programs here at our store. We are proud to be Sacramento's zero waste headquarters and a TerraCycle partner where we can remove hard to recycle items such as plastic dental packaging, deodorant packaging, mascara wands, razors, and many, many more. This gives us the capability to bring awareness to the types of packaging that would normally end up in a landfill. We would like to see more manufacturers using more recyclable, biodegradable, and compostable packaging in order to be more sustainable. We are determined to grow our TerraCycle donation center within our retail store to meet the demands of our customers and our community. Since our conception, Refill Madness has removed roughly 24,000 or 12.2 tons of single-use plastic from our waste stream. The Refill Madness team is thrilled to be acknowledged by the California Product Stewardship Council, and we look forward to working together to bring awareness to sustainable packaging options. We've noticed a major increase in the demand for zero waste stores around the country, and here in Sacramento, our customers also share concerns about manufacturers and what we can do to hold them accountable and steer them in the direction of more sustainable packaging. People are paying close attention to what they're buying. They are aware of what happens to their product direction of more sustainable packaging. People are paying close attention to what they're buying. They are aware of what happens to their products or the end of use, whether that be a recycling center or a landfill. And in 2019, Refill Madness closely worked with legislators to pass bills on producer responsibilities, and we will continue our advocacy partnerships here in the Capitol. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Sloan. That was an excellent dialogue for your award. And if we can go back to the slide presentation, please. Okay, I have the honor of presenting our overall award, which is our Golden Arrow Award for overall excellence in product stewardship. And this award goes to Sierra Nevada. So Sierra Nevada is based out of Chico. I suspect many of you have partaken in their wonderful beverages, and they have been an excellent partner of CPSC over the years. And the person that will be accepting this award is Mandy McKay, and she is the sustainability manager for Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, the local brewery, is taking producer responsibility on an international level. As a zero waste certified facility, using solar for over a decade, composting at their restaurants, and using compost at their own farm where they grow their own hops to brew their own beer. Leadership in beer can serve as a model for the industries, especially as more manufacturers reconsider the total impact of their products on our environment. If we can please roll the video, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mandy McKay. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. I'm here to thank you and the California Product Stewardship Council for recognizing us with the Golden Arrow Award. It's a huge honor coming from a partner and colleagues and friends who are all working on the same things in this space, and you understand how important the work is. So again, thank you so much. Means a lot. Sustainability has been a core operating principle for Sierra Nevada since our founding. And I'm really proud of the things we've achieved, particularly with zero waste and product stewardship and producer responsibility. That touches every facet of our operations as well as our supply chain. And we also know that the work is never done. So my team and I are still busy working to raise that bar and finding new and better ways to achieve those goals. So thank you again. We'll keep working hard. And I'm happy to report that even in the midst of a pandemic, our production and packaging teams are still making beer. It's getting out into the market. I hope it's providing solace to you if that is how you choose to end your day. And again, thank you for the recognition. Looking forward to celebrating with everyone in person at some point. Hope you're enjoying the rest of the conference. And congratulations to all of the other winners. Thank you and cheers.
So I wanted to congratulate all of the winners of the 4 Arrow Awards today. This is part 1 of our 2-part series for Arrow Awards. We will be presenting our Sponsor of the Year Award and Associate of the Year Award tomorrow. So again, thank you for joining us today, and hope to see all of you again tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Doug. Phenomenal awards and very deserving recipients. So unfortunately, I don't have a Sierra Nevada beer this AM, so I just got my mood lamp here to kind of calm, stays in. So, all right, we are done and ready. We finished our first plenary session, a little bumpy, but again, it will continue to get better. And at the end of the day, it's just awesome to be here with each and every one of you from my weird storage office with weird stuff all around to your home. So before we release you to your sessions in a couple of minutes, I wanted to remind everyone that there's some great interactive games available. Despina and our amazing CRA team is going to send an email about these games. There's some great prizes and opportunities to also gain actual additional CEU credits through SWANA. So please check out the emails that you get from CRA. Give you a lot of great instructions and tips on how to move forward successfully through this conference. And again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all your patience. And at least the coolest part of all this is I get to sit in my nice shirt with shorts. So hey, there we go. It's a fun conference. Have a great day and talk to you soon. Bye.